Hello everyone, it's Amber from The Healthy Edge, and just to let you know before we get started with the video, my daughter's in the background. You might hear her laughing and giggling and maybe yelling out a shriek, but she is having a good old time as we are going to have learning how to make basic sauerkraut. So I spent 3 hours at the Design to Thrive workshop that I just hosted talking about the power of a healthy gut and all the things that we do to rob ourselves of having a healthy, balanced gut, and then things that we can do to help improve our health of our gut. So one of the things we talked about was fermented foods. So instead of going out and trying to find the best probiotic or a probiotic that works for you and doing a lot more than just yogurt, yes, yogurt is probiotic. It does contain, if you buy it, with live cultures in it, but we're talking about upping that level even more and exposing ourselves to a plethora of good bacteria, and a way to do that's with fermented foods. So this basic sauerkraut recipe I love. I do a couple spoonfuls with lunch and a couple spoonfuls with dinner, and it is really quite phenomenal, the impact that it has. So the first thing you need is a good organic cabbage. Now this is about 3 pounds. You want anywhere from 2 to 3 pounds. I weighed this at the grocery store because that is going to depend on how much salt you add. So it is good to know if you don't have a scale at home to be able to weigh it. So this is, again, 2 to 3 pounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel the outer leaves of the cabbage off, like so. So just the first layer, like that, and then we can put that to the side. And now what we're going to do is we are going to cut the cabbage in half. So as you can see, I have the bottom actually up towards me, and so we're going to cut right down through the cabbage with a big old knife, like so. And now we're going to flip it over, and we are going to cut again so that we have 4 equal parts. Okay? And cut this guy in half. Now, it is optional whether or not you want to remove the hearts. So as you can see, there's going to be this little area that's all solid white. So you can go ahead and cut that out. I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut that out. So you want to check each half or a quarter. Quarter is probably, there we go. Get rid of that. And then we got the hearts on these. We're going to cut those. Baby girl's having a good time over there. All right. Now, the next part can be tedious or not. If you have a food processor that has something that will actually whip up or chop up leaves, you could absolutely do it in a food processor. Otherwise, you can do it by hand, or you can do it with like a guillotine mandolin type thing where you just, I don't even know what for sure the official word is for that, but you could do that as well. That to me, I don't know, you have to clean it, whatever. So I'm just going to do it by hand. And if you want your sauerkraut crunchier, then you're going to want the pieces bigger. If you want it to get nice and soft and soggy, which is kind of the way that I like it, then you are going to cut it smaller. So all I'm going to start doing is just cutting. I do not have great knife skills. You don't need to have great knife skills. But I'm going to cut just like that so you can see these pieces. And then if I want to, I can also chop them again, like this. Okay, again, depending on the texture that you like your sauerkraut, it's totally up to you, but you can't do it wrong. So you can either make a little bit wider pieces or a little bit smaller, and then basically you're going to transfer it hopefully into a stainless steel bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to chop up the rest of this cabbage, and then we're going to come back for the next step in making our basic sauerkraut. And we're back. I hope you had a great time chopping up your cabbage. Now you don't just have to use green cabbage, you could use red cabbage. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be the same process no matter what color cabbage you use. But once you've chopped it up, the next step is to add salt. Now, you might say, oh, Amber, salt's not good for you. Well, salt in moderation absolutely is good for you. Your body actually needs salt. So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to use the salt to actually pull the water out of the cabbage so that when we pack it into the jars, there's going to be liquid in there to allow the cabbage to ferment. So for every pound, you want to add 2 teaspoons of salt. That's why I measure it at the grocery store, because again, I know that I'm not going to be able to weigh it here. I don't have a food weigher. Food weigher, is that a word? No, I think it's called a food scale. So I know that this was a little bit over 3 pounds. So after removing the outer cabbage leaves and then taking out the hearts, I know that this is going to be about 3 pounds. So I'm going to measure, again, 2 for every pound. So there's 1. There's 2, so that would be for 1 pound. 3, 4, that would be for 2 pounds. 5, and 6. Now, typically, if you use a 2-pound cabbage, that's going to make about a quart's worth of sauerkraut. So I have, again, a little bit more than that. Now, here's where you get to literally get your hands dirty. So as this salt is sitting on the cabbage, again, what the salt's going to do is it's actually going to pull water out of the cabbage. So you can let the salt sit just for a couple of minutes, and then we're actually going to use our hands and we're going to get in there and we're going to squeeze the cabbage and start to squeeze the liquid out of the cabbage. So we'll let this sit here just for a second, okay, and then I am going to literally get my hands in here. Wash your hands, of course, which I already did before we started the video. Okay, and we're just going to start massaging and squeezing. Now this can take anywhere from a couple of minutes depending on how ripe your cabbage is, or it could take up to about 10 minutes. So you will start to see, though, like I can already start to see that the cabbage looks wet, like there's water on it, so that's a good sign. But you're just going to keep on squeezing. Okay, and again, just massaging and kneading and flipping it around. So if you started with a smaller cabbage, it's going to be a little less to do this with, but this is what we're going to do. Now, as we're kneading our cabbage, let's talk a little bit more about the benefits of fermented food. So as you remember, for those of you that did join me at the Design to Thrive workshop, your gut is basically your second brain. It also functions as your second liver. It's at the very essence of your immune system. And many of us, whether we were born by C-section, our moms didn't breastfeed us, we had lots of rounds of antibiotics or different medications, depending on what kind of stress level we have in our life. Also what kind of food we eat. So if we eat a lot of processed foods, artificial sweeteners, a lot of industrial oils like canola oil and safflower oil, if we're exposed to GMOs, all of that throws off the health of our gut. And when we have too many bad guys and not enough good guys, bad things happen. So everything from headaches to skin issues to constipation and bloating, depression is linked to your gut health. I mean, it is tied to everything, including things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and autism. And so the research is going on and on and on and on again about the benefits of getting a really healthy gut diversity going on. But the problem is we have a lot of bad guys, or maybe you don't have a lot of diversity in your gut. And so it can be a process to rid your body of the bad bacteria. And so we talked about, going to see a functional practitioner who can help evaluate if you have parasites or if you have a yeast overgrowth, which could be causing you some issues. But for those of you that are in, pretty normal health and want to get more good guys into your gut on a consistent basis, and that's the thing with health, guys, this is an ongoing process. It's not just something that you do for a couple of days or a week and then you're like, oh, I'm done, I'm set for life. This is something that you must do to nurture your body. So it's kind of like a garden. Think of your gut flora as a garden, and we want to continue to lay down really good seeds. So these fermented foods, these probiotic foods, contain tons and tons and tons of bacteria on it. So think about it. As Mother Nature grew this cabbage, all of these bacteria on this cabbage are there, and we are going to basically give them an environment to be able to proliferate. And so nature does it best. Yes, we can take a capsule, you could take a probiotic, and for some of you, you may find that those give you great results. I have never had results like what I have enjoyed doing fermented food. And so, it's just so easy. And most people like sauerkraut. It's just a really basic fermented food. So again, to be able to make your own, you're going to save a ton of money, and it's just going to be healthier. You know that it hasn't had anything added. You know that it's organic. There's just a lot of things that you can control. So as you can see, I'm starting to get, look at that, I'm starting to get some liquid coming out of it. How cool is that, huh? So you want to just keep kneading and keep massaging. Again, we're going to let this juice become basically what our bacteria is going to grow in. Okay? Let's see, what else can we talk about with fermented foods? We talked about so much at Design to Thrive, 3 hours, and I know that some of you left a little bit overwhelmed, probably a little bit like I was when I first started doing this research, concerned about what you're putting in your mouth and what the health of your gut is. And so hopefully you left that workshop with some really, really great tips, and one of them being the fermented food. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop the video. I'm going to keep kneading this and massaging it probably for another 3 or 4 minutes. And so I want you to continue to do the same. And then when we come back, we're actually going to start to pack them into jars, and we're going to talk about that process. All right? Okay, we'll see you in a few. And we're back. So now we have to actually can our sauerkraut. Now, I've just done one. I'm going to show you how to do this, but I love this size. So this is a pint, and I love this because it's going to be easy to get into, and with just Brian and I eating it, it's going to be, we're not going to have a ton to have to deal with. Now, we did it in a quart size before, which is fine, but to try to get this out from the bottom, it can kind of be a big old mess. So I really like the pint jars. So these are clean pint jars. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our mixture that now looks nice and moist and has liquid sitting at the bottom, and we are going to add that into the jar. Now you can use your hands for this process. I am trying to be clean for the sake of this video, but normally I would probably just be using my hands. And as you put it in, you can use your hands to push the cabbage down. Now, if you want to stay clean, which cabbage is nice because it doesn't really smell, we're not getting super dirty here, but we can use, here it is, let me rinse this off. Okay, we can use a glass where the bottom fits into the jar. So as you can see, if I push down, you're going to see that liquid rise up. Now the goal is to get as many air bubbles out as possible. So as I push down, I can see that there's bubbles, okay, bubbling up. And so I'm going to keep pushing and try to get all that air out. So it really is nice to use a glass. Again, you can do this with your hand, but yeah, and I can see that there's still just a few bubbles. Okay, now, if you take a look, you're going to see that the liquid is above the cabbage, and that's what you want. That is going to allow this cabbage to ferment and make sure that the oxygen is not disrupting the process. So this is good. Now I'm going to add a little bit more because I want to be efficient. You want to have at least 1 inch from the top of the jar, because as this cabbage starts to ferment, it is going to start to expand, and so you want to give it room to expand. So again, I'm going to push down, I'm going to let those air bubbles. So in terms of storage, you want it to be in a cool, dry place, anywhere from 50 degrees Celsius to 75 degrees Celsius will work. Oh, I'm sorry, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. For some reason, I was thinking about my exchange daughter in Celsius. 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and anywhere in that range is going to work with the fermentation process. So again, we're pushing it down to get all those air bubbles out. Some people, going back to storage, we store it out in our garage in a shelf that we have behind a door. You can also do it in your oven, again, not using your oven, or your microwave. If people don't use their microwaves, you can shut the door. It keeps it nice and even temperature. And so let's take a look at this. Look at that. That's perfect. So again, you can see that liquid at the top. I have a little bit more than 1 inch. And so I am going to call this one done and put that on like so. So now what do? Well, after you store it, you're going to want to check it after a few days. So how do you check it? You actually open it up, smell it, take a fork, taste it, because you're going to get to decide when it's at a place that you are going to actually eat it. Now, obviously, the longer you keep it, the more it's going to ferment, the more that it's going to get a stronger flavor, and you may or may not like that. I really like that flavor, so we let ours go for probably about 6 or 7 days before we put it into the refrigerator. Now, once you put it into the refrigerator, it is going to stop fermenting. And so it's basically going to stay at that type of flavor. Now it is going to start to ferment or continue to ferment a little bit, but nothing like when it was in the cold, dry place. And so it can store in the refrigerator for months. This is not something that you need to eat over the course of a week or two. Again, I do a couple of spoonfuls at lunch, a couple of spoonfuls at dinner, and it is amazing what it can do for sugar cravings. It's like those bacteria eat that sugar right up, where you know that sugar feeds the bad bacteria and feeds yeast. But if you have a lot of good bacteria, that good bacteria will gobble up that sugar as well. So let's see, anything else? So again, check it after like 2 or 3 days, then probably put it away again, check after another couple, 2 or 3 days, and see again what flavor your sauerkraut is bringing on. So this is basic sauerkraut, super simple. There's really only two ingredients, cabbage and salt. Anybody can do this. It's super economical. Think about how less expensive it is to do this than to buy a probiotic, try to find a probiotic, get the probiotic shipped to you. Remember to take the probiotic, think, oh, is that probiotic even making a difference? This is something you can do with literally 1 organic cabbage. It doesn't get much easier than that. And then obviously the sea salt. So that is our basic sauerkraut recipe. I hope that that blessed you. And if you did not get a chance to join us at Design to Thrive and you want 3 hours of content about gut health, things that are promoting your unhealthy gut and things that you can do to enhance your good gut health and all the things that are related, there is an opportunity for you to still get access to the content, and you'll be able to see that somewhere where you're seeing this video. All right, everyone, have a great day. Enjoy.